She had clearly thought of him as this great man when he was nothing more than a coward and a cheater. The shock on her face was so evident that I could almost feel it. As she turned to my husband demanding explanations, he confirmed the truth of what I had just disclosed. I could feel some kind of satisfaction as I watched her process the truth. She asked my husband why he had not mentioned it before, and he replied that it was none of her business and went on to clarify how, although he hooked up with her 3 times including today, he didn't love her nor did he want to pursue any kind of relationship with her. Jamie's eyes widened in shock and she asked slowly what he meant by that. Ken went on to tell her that he didn't have any feelings for her whatsoever and had made a huge mistake giving in to her. Jamie broke down. Ken asked her to leave the house so he could talk to me and knew that having her around would distress me even more. With tears streaming down her face, she packed up and quickly left. I took my boys into their room as I didn't want them to sense that something was wrong. Ken later came into the room and asked me to talk to him. By then, my mind was already made up. I told him in the living room away from the boys' earshot that I was done with him. I asked him to pack up and leave since I could not leave with the boys. He started to plead and cry, but I was so done with his bullshit that I stopped him right there. I told him that he had done what he thought was right for him and now I was going to do what was right for me. He tried to protest, but I stood my ground. In the end, he did leave with a suitcase full of his clothes. He told the boys that he was going on an urgent work trip so they would not feel something was amiss. This all happened yesterday and I have woken up today feeling broken. I feel really bad for the twins who probably have no idea that their parents are going to split up. I grew up with parents who still loved each other, and I don't want to subject my kids to the ugliness of divorce yet. I know it would be the right decision to leave Ken. Would I be in a hole to my kids for divorcing their dad? Update 1. First of all, thank you so much to everyone for your kind words since I wrote this post last week. I'm shocked that a lot of you have reached out to me with similar stories, and this has given me the assurance I need that I am heading down the right path. The twins do ask about their dad sometimes since it has been a week, but then they get easily distracted with their toys. Ken texted me this week saying that he is living in a motel at the moment and sent me several long messages saying how my sister was to be blamed for all of this and how she seduced him. I have left him on read. I have no idea where Jamie is and I honestly do not care. She has not contacted me once since leaving the house. Update 2. The first thing I did this week was talk to my parents. I knew Jamie would never have the balls to tell them anything. So when I turned up at their place unannounced, they were surprised but happy to see me and the boys. When I finally told my parents about everything, they were shocked beyond the words. I know a lot of you had written to me and that maybe my parents would not believe me. But in my case, my mother didn't even hesitate before hugging me as she and I broke down in grief. My dad looked pissed and started to say how he could never forgive Jamie for doing this to me. Then I told my parents that I had even bigger news to tell them. My parents looked at me worried as I confessed to them about how the twins were actually Ken's kids and were not adopted. My parents' expressions morphed from concern to disbelief as they grappled with this new revelation. They questioned me as I revealed to them about Ken's cheating incident with another woman and how we had adopted the children from her. My parents sat quietly for a moment looking stunned. I told them that even though the twins were not biologically mine and a product of Ken's discrepancy, I no longer cared about it since I had officially adopted them and I was their mother. I have loved them like my own since the first day I brought them back home. My parents assured me that they always have my back and if I wanted to fight for custody for the children, they would be happy to help. My dad told me that he would help me find the best lawyer in our town so I could start preparing for my divorce. Update 3. Hi, everyone. It has been 3 months since my last update. Many of you have reached out to me asking for an update on my situation, so here I am. I'm currently separated from my husband and we are going through the divorce proceedings. Ken and I did talk to the twins about our divorce. And even though they didn't understand all of it, they were sad that we were all no longer going to live in one house. However, we tried to lighten the mood by highlighting the silver lining, the opportunity for double celebrations like Christmas and birthdays. As for Ken, he has offered apologies repeatedly for his betrayal. While I appreciate his remorse, I have chosen to take his words at face value without placing too much weight on them. For the sake of my children, I want to be polite and civil to him. My parents found out a few months ago that Jamie had been couch surfing with her friends, too ashamed and humiliated to reach out to anyone. However, when her friends no longer wanted her, she had no choice but to reach out to our parents since she also had no job. My dad refused to let her in and let her know that she was no longer his daughter and that he was disgusted with her. I know my mom must be hurting to refuse my sister, but to her credit, she did support my dad. Jamie begged and groveled, but eventually had to leave. I have blocked her since a long time ago, so she has no way of contacting me. And if she ever comes to my property, I will straight away call the police on her.